No draft, no problem. I'm still super excited for the offseason acquisitions that the Mercury made. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erica Lee Day. I'm joined by my esteemed point guard, PG1, QB1, whatever you want to call them, on and off the streets, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, Stephen Pridgeon Garner. Stephen, how the heck are you today?
Counting down the days to training camp.
We got like 9 left?
It's about to be a ton of fun. A Sunday following this upcoming one. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be chaotic. And I think that's all great for all of the athletes that are participating because you have to bring it. And anything that's going to be given is going to have to be earned. And I think that being a tone that's set for a training camp session and ultimately, naturally, a season to come, there's no better way to go about doing it, honestly. No guarantees. You come in, you're given an opportunity, and it's what you do with your opportunity compared to the colleagues and the competitors that you're up against, obviously within the team system. But I think that's fun. I just love the competitive nature of that. Obviously, it's going to go away a little bit as expansion continues, but I don't think there's a better way to gauge talent than to say you have X amount of days against other players that are vying for the same single-digit number of positions that are available on the roster. Check ball.
Right. It's going to be an intense training camp, I think, here in Phoenix, but all across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mercury right now has 19 players on their training camp contract list, and they have to get it down to 18 at some point, and then obviously down to 12 to start the season. So definitely some big moves to be made, but we've got a lot to get to. We've got a first-time Mercury producer, Noah, on the X's and O's today. I'm super excited about this guy. So shout out to him for running the X's and O's behind the Mac
cool
today.
Or whatever.
Yeah, Steven's got a little bit of experience with Noah.
He cool or whatever.
And I don't think either of them have actually seen the Suns tweet I put up earlier today. So I hope that both of them go take a peek at that and give it a good giggle.
Probably shouldn't.
It's okay.
I'll save it for after the show.
But I mean, all that said, like, even though the Mercury didn't have picks, we saw a pretty exciting WNBA draft earlier this week. I mean, I was hollering through my house. I had no dog in the fight, so I was kind of excited to watch it from a outsider's perspective, I guess. And, you know, I think I want to start by just talking about who the winners and the losers of the draft are. I don't think there's really that many losers, to be frank with you, but I do think there are some clear winners in the draft. And we haven't actually, Steven and I don't get a chance to talk before the show too much, so I don't know what Steven's thoughts on the draft are at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good thing. It keeps it spontaneous, but I'll let you go first. What were your thoughts on winner and a potential, I guess we can't even say loser, but someone that you maybe expected more from in the draft potentially?
Well, the team that I think won the draft is the Mystics. I think getting Kiki Urioff and Georgia Amore, if I'm not mistaken, and just the gets that they got are going to help them. I was talking to my roommate. That team is going to be extremely competitive, and if they can keep all of those stars in-house, like 3 to 4 years, I mean, that is going to be borderline a super team if they can keep everything in-house. And the Mystics right now have been kind of like the, not bottom feeders of the league, but, you know, they've been on the bottom half of the standings for 2 consecutive years now. So I'm excited for them to get back into, you know, some competitive basketball. With Kiki, I mean, I've talked to you all year about how I thought Kiki could move up in the draft stock. Draft projections, and I think she was giving anyone a good run for her money for 2nd or 3rd spot. I mean, Kiki is, in my opinion, as close as you can get to A'ja Wilson without actually being A'ja Wilson, and that, I mean, I'm saying that about her in college, so I can't imagine what 2 or 3 years playing versus A'ja Wilson and the greatest in the league is going to do for her career. So I just think the Mystics came out really, really well from that draft, and it felt like for a while every pick was the Mystics.
Mm-hmm. It did, because they quite literally had
It was
a
like
solid
4
portion
picks.
of the top 10. Yeah, so it didn't just feel that way. It was quite actually that for them. I did enjoy what they did, though. I want to shout out Coach Sidney Johnson for the opportunity that he's gotten with the Mystics as well. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with their roster, because they have a ton of young players. They also still have some veterans left over from whatever last season was for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, most notable being Brittany Sykes as well as Big Mama Steph Dolson. I'm curious what they're going to also do with Shakira Austin.
Yeah.
Because they have some overlapping players at that forward center front court in terms of where Sydney might want to go, what they could potentially get back to add more draft picks to their potential picks going forward in the next couple of years, where the draft is going to again be good and then even greater in 2 or 3 years from now.
Yep.
Like, there's no stopping that. So I'm curious where the Mystics are going to end up in the next 2 or 3 seasons, but I'm also just generally curious about where Sydney takes that team, because he did a lot of things behind the scenes for the Chicago Sky last season on both ends of the court. He's also a coach that spent plenty of time with Team USA on both sides of the basketball, 3-on-3 as well as the 5-on-5 teams, men and women's side. So tons of basketball experience, high IQ, and just generally a great feel for the game. So I'm curious what he's going to do with that group. Would not be surprised if they make 2 or 3 trades during the season, though, in a kind of unexpected fashion, because the W isn't usually the loudest with trades. But they have a lot of things that they can potentially bring in. My winner, naturally, you get Paige Beckers, you're automatically winning big time. And I think that the Dallas Wings are cooking with a few things. They'll have a lot to figure out. But yes, they did a great job with their draft in general. But when you get the number 1 pick, and that number 1 pick is Paige Beckers, you're starting off on a pretty good foot.
How can you lose the draft if you have Paige Beckers in the list?
Correct. I would also love to give a shout out to the Seattle Storm. That's it. That's all. That's it.
Okay.
Because they are cooking up there. They are cooking.
The West is going to be quite the battle this year. And, I could go about the Aces right now, but... Of
course. And even they did well in the draft.
Yeah.
They didn't have any high-level picks.
Right.
Still made out extremely well.
It's such an Aces thing to get the 13th pick and to still feel like they have just one of the best picks of the draft at 13.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of wild. And, if you watch the draft, you heard Ryan and Rebecca talk about when you get picked in the 2nd or 3rd round, it's really not about the number that you're picked. It is about the fit. And can you make the roster? Can you make a difference on the roster? And so that pick for her makes a lot of sense. And the Aces have been known to take some really good picks really late in the draft. So I was not at all shocked by their good moves late.
I mean, they love their South Carolina Gamecocks.
They sure do.
So there's that part. Tina naturally fits in with the way that they play, the way that they want their wings to play. I'm very curious what her development is going to look like with them, especially now that Tyler Marsh is no longer a part of that group. Who's going to be in charge of that?
Tahina went to the Dream.
Oh, excuse me. I'm thinking I'm thinking of Harmony, though. Excuse me.
But yeah.
I'm thinking of Harmony. Excuse me. Yes. With Harmony specifically, everything that Raquana Williams was for them, that's a box that she's going to check off in very similar fashions. And I'm speaking as if she's made the roster, because I just don't see a way that she won't.
I would agree.
And again, for her to be in their skill development program, even though Tyler is no longer a part, I think that they're still going to get the absolute most out of her. And the sky is literally the limit for someone that can get a bucket from each level of the court whenever she wants to, however she wants to. And if that's coming opposite of A'ja Wilson, or you can lean into that when Asia's not on the court, that's it, man. It's just an embarrassment of riches. The cycle continues for them.
Yeah, the Aces are just going to be that team that is continuously competitive for, I think, many years to come. When you got A'ja and you're building around A'ja, I think, what else do you need? But then they go out and get it every single offseason. Yep. They very much had a weakness last season. Very much so. And it was obvious if you watch the league as a whole. And so they went out and addressed that need. And I mean, and not to mention the fact that Liz Kitley is returning for the Aces this year. We've talked about how Asia's going to need help. Let's talk about help. Elizabeth Kitley. So, I mean, yeah, the Aces are going to have, like you said, an embarrassment of riches to go around.
This just, like, when you do your job very well, you just kind of stumble into success at times. And that's literally what they did because they lost their initial pick.
Right.
Because of the off-the-court things that took place seasons before. Won't get into those details, but to have that as a disadvantage and you still make out the way that they did, it's a well-ran franchise.
Well, and let's talk about the dream. Getting Tahina, I think that addressed something that they really, really need.
Yeah.
Plus, not to mention the fact that dream tickets are going to be literally impossible to get with the fams that close up the road.
Yeah, that's might as well have been a home signing at that point.
I was like, okay.
That's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Her with Big Al. I mean, it's just going to be a really fun team. And it's just going to be so fresh comparatively to what we've seen from the Dream in the last 3 or 4 seasons. If you don't know, I was a Dream rider before I joined this show. And like, I'm just so excited for this team to be reinvigorated from the ground up, honestly. With the addition of BG, who, I mean, apparently we're going to be playing during rivalry week. What a time. Who would have thunk that this was going to be the way this season was going to play out? But yeah, the Dream is going to be an extremely, extremely fun team to watch. So I'm excited for them to have Tahina and a new coaching staff. It's going to be really fresh for them.
Yeah, that Atlanta Dream team is going to be fun. They're going to be running some fun stuff on offense. And I'm looking forward to the continued growth of one Ryan Howard in particular. I know we're talking about the draft picks, but the Dream will be fun.
For real.
They'll be in the thick of everything regarding the playoffs.
It's funny because as we sit here and we talk through these teams, like, it's hard to pick who isn't going to be a playoff contender at the end of the season.
Yeah.
You know?
That group outside of the top 2, which are the 2 teams that were in the finals last season, outside of New York and Minnesota, it's going to be there's going to be some animosity. I'll say it that way. There's going to be a ton of competition from 3 through 8. And there's going to be some teams that are going to have their feelings hurt because they maybe didn't get out the gate to a solid start. Or because they had an untimely 4-game losing streak, or even an untimely 2-game losing streak. I feel like that's how close things are going to be in the standings this season.
I would agree with you. Like last season, the Mercury got off to a kind of a rougher start. They were without BG and a lot of their starters, and it was just kind of a crap show. But I think that it's really important to get off to a good start. And so I'm glad that Mercury at least has some continuity with their coaching staff and all that sort of situation, because like he said, like, it is going to be a dogfight, especially I think between the 9 and like 6 spot is going to be just a dogfight all season long. So they always talk about how anyone can win on any given night, but I think this season more than any other season before, like, the parity is going to be super real in the league.
I'm looking forward to it, all of it, every last bit of it.
Well, before the draft, our good pal, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, spoke with the media, and, I watched the whole thing. I had to laugh at a few moments just because she was talking about, the McDonald's All-American game and how excited she is for the growth of the league. But obviously, Kathy had to throw some shots in there. And frankly, I'm not sure I blame her. Before I show these clips, I do want to say this. I don't think I blame her, because in the press conference before the WNBA draft, arguably one of her favorite days of the year, she has to address countless questions about, a competing league. And all that said, though, I also don't really think it's a bad thing, because for the exact reason that most people were asking the questions, it is time to put some pressure on the league to do things the right way in terms of growth. And so without further ado, I'm going to let Noah play these clips for you guys.
Yeah, I think people have their certain biases or opinions, but what we've done is invest in the long-term sustainability of the league. We didn't do anything for short-term attention, short-term coverage. We're investing with our media partners, we're investing with our corporate partners in a long-term sustainable economic model. So that's why we're different.
Yeah.
We didn't want to expand too fast. We didn't want to do other things too fast. Some people are like, you should do this, expand the number of games, expand this. No. We've got a vision and a strategy for long-term sustainability. So that's what's different this time. Why? Because they're confident. We're the longest tenured women's professional sports league in the country by double any other. that gives a lot of people confidence to invest. And when you give them a vision, long-term vision of where you're going, they don't think it's one and done. They don't think it's short term. They don't think it's a phase, as you said. They're confident that you're building something for a long time. Just remember, the men's leagues some of them are 75 years older than us, 50 years.
So I'm going to start off by saying that I don't love when she compares it to men's leagues, but that all said, I also understand why she does it. When she talks about short-term success and one and done and this, that, and the other, it's an obvious, to me, slight at Unrivaled and what they've been able to do. I think I want to point to some key things. When I talk about WNBA growth and the things that the league has done to prohibit WNBA growth, I'm talking about the fact that WNBA owners only own 42% of the league and NBA owners own another 42% of the league. And the only people whose percentage went down because of the expansion is the WNBA owners. Investors didn't lose any shares of this. NBA owners weren't affected by this. It was single-handedly only WNBA teams that were affected by these percentage drops and revenue sharing and all this sort of situation. And so how can you talk about long-term sustainability for growth when you've set up the plan initially to literally not be sustainable to make money for the league? And frankly, not to sound like a craphead or anything like that, but I'm so frustrated of people talking to me about how the league hasn't been able to make money in 20 years when the NBA owns 42% of it. They have to pay out 42% of whatever profits or whatever they would be getting. And then on top of it, the other 22% or whatever that's left up to the investors from 2022, I mean, we're talking about a lot of outgoing money that the WNBA owners are not benefiting from. And so you can't sit here and talk about return of investment and long-term sustainability when you already right now have a plan that is clearly not long-term sustainable. So I understand why she is so frustrated about the questions about Unrivaled. And frankly, I would be too if I were her. But all that said, like, I'm so glad that Unrivaled exists right now to put the pressure on the league that needs to be there. You know, when you have Paige Beckers, before she's even signed her contract with the Dallas Wings, signing a contract that is in 1 year going to be worth more than her entire rookie contract in the WNBA, that is a problem. And so, they're going to go play basketball for a month and a half, 6 weeks in February and March, and they're going to triple their, salary from the WNBA, not to mention the fact that Unrivaled insures their WNBA salary. So if they get hurt playing Unrivaled, the WNBA salary is still there, paid by Unrivaled. Like, their plan is obviously long-term sustainable, and the WNBA's is obviously not. And so, obviously there's some renegotiations with the CBA. Kathy said, I'm not going to negotiate in the media. Respectable. I get it. But at the same time, there's been reports that the CBA, the Players Association has submitted terms for a CBA and hasn't heard back from the league since December. That's an issue. She says that's not true, but then kind of in the same sentence said that they do have terms that they have not responded to. So again, Kathy needs to plain figure it out. I'm kind of frustrated with oh yeah, we're the longest tenured women's sports league. Okay, well, you're also paying your number one draft pick less than $80,000 a year. That's an issue.
Correct. Noah, if I could have put that into words, that would have been my response. But sometimes less is more, and that sound is everything. I would just like to take this moment again to speak to competition and accountability that comes with it. You're only going to have certain types of responses like that if there's some insecurity there, there's some desire for more to be done there, and those things not being up to task with one another. And I think that she's feeling the pressure applied by Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart with Unrivaled. And naturally, that's the main reason why the league was brought to begin with. To give players an outlet to not have to go overseas during their offseason, for one, to effectively give them ownership in the league that they're going to be participating in, obviously to make their money in addition to all of those things. but also to be treated the ways that they desire to be treated in the main league. If that's what they were able to put together in a whole lot shorter amount of time and a whole lot less resources available, and for the response to be what it was and the product to be what it was, there's going to inevitably be accountability. Are you up for the challenge? Are you going to step up to that? Or are you going to continue to leave players with more to be desired, which is going to be factored in after the conclusion of this season and in between the end of this season and the start of next season as the CBA conversations continue to develop. There is going to be a ton of layers, and if the players do not feel like they've been sufficed with where things are and there's not a proof of concept to where they're headed and they don't believe in it, there's going to be some tough conversations to be had. And it's not the first. I'm not breaking any news.
Right.
Players have said that. Some players verbatim. Other players have spoken around it. That time is coming. The clock is ticking.
I even think you get to look at a situation like Flau'jae Johnson down at LSU. And listen, I could be speculating about absolutely nothing, so please do not take this as Erica Day is breaking this news on the Phoenix Mercury podcast. But Flau'jae has been teasing this announcement for like 3 or 4 days now, and the announcement could be, I'm in the transfer portal, I'm going to Unrivaled, or just plain I'm dropping an album. One of those 3 is going to be the inevitable announcement, and it could very well be the middle option. Granted, there could also be this wild card 4th option where some overseas team offered her an arm and a leg to come play early, but I don't think that that's the case. I would absolutely not be shocked if we see Flau'jae Johnson suit up for Unrivaled before we see her suit up in the WNBA. And I think when we are considering that as a real option, that's a real issue in the long term for the league.
And I don't think we were too far away from Paige potentially going that exact same route, albeit before. But naturally, it's still happening. I don't think, like, those are not things that you want to see happening if you're the commissioner. You want the players going from the collegiate level to your league and naturally being able to make those things happen. And the fact that these conversations are even being had. And it's even, like, entering the thought process, you're behind the 8 ball. You're not where you need to be as a league.
We talked about this last year about how, foreign players have to feel like the WNBA is the best women's basketball league in the world. And it's now gotten to the point where we have to convince American players that it's the best league in the world. And how can I try convincing them of that when they're going to make $81,000 in their rookie contract? It's not something that makes me super stoked about, the growth of the league. Like, I want to see these players prosper, and the plan in place right now is obviously not sustainable. So I hope that the CBA renegotiation goes as the players have planned it. I think the unfortunate part is, like, we're going to spend this entire season talking around the CBA. And so I think it's going to take away from the product on the floor. Not even just with us, but for the players as well. For, the NECAs of the world, the Kelsey Plums of the world that have to, go out there and represent their teams for the Players Association. It's going to take away from their player experience this season. And obviously they have to do what they have to do because they're in the positions that they're in. But again, like, it is really going to take away from the player experience this season. And I won't be surprised if it does so next season. And like you talked about, like, this hostility around the league, it's not going to stop with a CBA renegotiation happening during the season. So I hope for Kathy's sake that she gets it together and she, gets a plan in place that is good enough for the players, because at this point, like, the players are fed up and I don't really blame them.
Yeah, I refuse to be mad at the players in any capacity, because all they're doing is asking for their just due.
Right.
The things that they're more than worth, the things that they should be valued at, they're just asking for those things in return and asking for evolution that aligns with the way that the product on the court is reaching levels that it's never seen before.
Well, and like David in the comments says, I don't think a lockout is out of the realm of possibilities. Like, players have said it. Like, it's very much possible, and that is not something that the league is going to want. You want to talk about not being able to make money? Okay, let's take away literally everything from you. So, Unrivaled, while it was not a perfect first season, it was a win for them over and over and over again. They were just winning. And when you have Kathy on the stand being asked, about what player or what experiences is she going to take away from Unrivaled and bring to the league, and she's just kind of like scratching her head, I think we're in for a real treat in regards to the for lack of a better term, the politics surrounding the WNBA this year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but there's going to be a lot of off the court
Yeah.
conversations, and it's going to be because the elephant in the room will persist with CBA.
I won't be surprised if once weekly in a post-game pressers we're hearing about the CBAs.
Seriously.
And probably more. And so, you know, again, I don't blame the players for being in the situation that they're in, you know, but this, like I said, 42% of the NBA, and it just is not, it's not working. So you got to change something. And again, this has been the case since the inception of the WNBA. These percentages and the NBA owning, it was built to be not sustainable. And I'm not saying that it was built to be anti-women. That is not at all what I'm saying. But it is almost as if they thought that it would fail. And here we are 20 some odd years later, and it has not failed. And they have to get a better plan in place so it continues to not fail. So
evolution is needed. It's needed in the worst way. It's overdue.
Well, before we get into everything going on with the Mercury, because it's been a crazy week, I feel like, even though, you know, we didn't get a draft pick. That's okay. There's something exciting happening for PHNX diehards, and there's a diehard only sale right now, $36 for the year. Not only do you get a free t-shirt, a $35 value t-shirt, but you get access to the diehard Discord, you get access to free events, so much more. But also, I'm doing a WNBA fantasy league this season. This is actually the second year in a row that I've done this. Diehard only. And so, you know, your $36 gets you $35 t-shirt plus $1. You get into an awesome fantasy WNBA league where you probably will, in the end, get to rub it in my face that you are a better ball knower than I. So, yeah, Ogre won last season. Honestly, I feel like I was just learning how to, you know, manage a fantasy roster. I've never played fantasy football. You know, I'm always getting left out of those. So I was just excited to have something, and I'm going to make Steven join it this season because he's our resident ball knower. So I just feel like if he doesn't have a team, what's the point? But $36, you get in our diehard Discord lounge. Come pop over, hang out with us. We chat a lot in there, actually, and I'm going to be answering some questions from the diehard lounge later in the episode. So thank you all for those comments in the lounge. But without further ado, Mercury did sign some players.
Yes, they did.
I want to start with Temira Poindexter, K-State. I'm the most familiar. If you don't know, I'm a Big 12 believer, and this girl right here is a hooper. Okay, in the tournament, I want to say hit 8 threes in K-State's final game. It was either 7 or 8 threes to take the game to overtime or tie it up. It was a very competitive game, and only because of Temira Poindexter. So, you know, she is a shooter. We've talked at length about, you know, shooting guards and how, you know, they can fit into this Mercury roster. But I think her in particular, she's got good size. I want to say she's 6'1", and she's just a very good build. I won't be surprised if she doesn't make the roster, just because simply, like I said earlier in the episode, like we're up to 19 training camp contracts, and there is a certain loophole so they can bring all 19 into the training camp. But that said, eventually this does have to pop down to 12. So I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath in the Mercury training camp.
Yeah, Temira Poindexter. That is the archetype that all GMs across all sides of basketball are looking for. Wings that have wide-ranging wingspans that can do multiple things on the court. Obviously, being able to shoot the 3 ball is one of the more important things, but what else can you do past just shooting the 3? You talked about Temira's 3-point shooting. She was at 40% on catch and shoot threes this season on an absolutely elite volume. And in addition to that, for me, what stood out when I was watching her film, the block shots. And I think she had 31 block shots last season. And 15 of those block shots were blocked 3-point attempts. Who does that? Who does that?
Only me and 2K. That's literally the only.
And that speaks to a larger dynamic that I'm getting to, because we're talking about 3-and-D types of players that fit hand in glove around the team context of the Mercury this season. You have someone that's more than capable of switching, guarding. She can probably come into the league guarding 1 to 4, quite honestly. And the fact that she defends so well in rotation, making closeouts, rotating over from the wing to the block to vertically contest or just get up a solid contest at the rim. She's disciplined and she's great using her wingspan, but she understands her wingspan as well. She knows that she doesn't have to get too close, which lends you to fouling because she has a wingspan to get up a viable contest. And you can run a ton of different schemes and you can do a ton of different exotic things on defense, but it all comes down to, are you able to impact the release of the shooter with whatever shot that's taking place and do so without fouling? And her having 15 blocked shots that came from 3-point attempts, that's like, I just need people to understand how, like, that's unicorn type of things. And for her to also be able to put that in tandem with being a 23-24 AAC, what was it, first team for the AAC that year, and then this past year in the Big 12 being third team.
And the Big 12, let me just say, being third team is no slight in the Big 12.
Not even a little bit.
It is a very, very competitive league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, third team is killer for her size and what she was able to do for the Kansas State team. And not to mention, like, the fact that they had so many injuries in and around their team, she was able to really carry that team on her back at times.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, third team is no slight to her as a player.
And then the last big thing for me, 31 players with 300 or more 3-point attempts this season. Her 89 makes ranked 8th. So I talked about the volume before anything else and how the accuracy on that volume, 40% on catch and shoot threes, translates perfectly into the context for the Mercury and what Nate Tibbetts is going to want from any of the two players that shares the court with the big three. She checks off all of those boxes in a unique way from pretty much any other person that's been invited to training camp so far.
So, and I know this is kind of such an unfair question because we've yet to see everybody together. You know, so much of it is fit, like I said earlier in the episode. But like, I'm going to ask for all three of them if you think that genuinely they're going to make the roster.
It's going to be hard for all three to make it.
I would agree.
There's a ton of smaller guards that play not necessarily the exact same way, but they operate in similar fashions. We'll get to another one in a moment, but I think that Temira is definitely in. She's an in for me for sure.
Period. Okay.
Yeah. You can't find, there's not enough value that you could place on finding wings that have the capabilities that she's shown to have. Like even before her time in the Big 12 last season and her time prior to then, she shows to be a player that could shoulder the brunt of an offense.
Yep.
Producing over 600 points via herself and assists in terms of creating offense. So that's not something that you stumble into. There's a ton of potential there, and I think they really hit it out the park for a team that did not have any picks to find a kind of diamond in the rough type of player post-draft.
You're a Michigan State.
Does she make the roster?
You know, when I listen to your arguments, I can't help but think yes. You know, and I mean, like I said, ball knower. So, you know, I would argue that you've probably watched more Poindexter in particular film than I have. But I mean, her playing team basketball last year was a ton of fun to watch. And I mean, it's not like the Mercury is going to not need guards.
Right.
So I think that the roster spots that are up for grabs are all for guards. So, I mean, she's got as good of a chance as anybody else that's, you know, headed in training camp.
I see her a little more as a wing, though. And that's why the lens I'm looking at her compared to, like, Shyla or McConnell that we're getting ready to get to next.
Oh, it's going to be such a tough. I would hate to be Nate. I don't want to be James Jones. I have no interest in being any of those people. Congratulations to them for being very successful, but I do not want to have to make these choices.
Well, I think that's a great thing because there's no wrong choice to make. Because you have so many players that
and
are
y'all
capable
had me
of so many
convinced
things.
about Shyla. So, I mean, say less regarding Shyla. So, I'll be mad if she doesn't make the roster. Well,
if she doesn't, that means that someone that they felt was more deserving made it. And that means that player is also a dog that checks off boxes in maybe a different way. So, there's a win-win for them. There is no losing.
Me and Peter Brown would be barking at the Mercury. You know that.
I hear you.
I don't blame him, you know. Okay, do you want to go Michigan State player next or the other one?
Nah, we can go to Megan.
Okay. Megan McConnell of Duquesne, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong.
It's Duquesne. There you go.
This is why I keep them around. Megan McConnell. But yeah, training camp contract. I think she's the same. Yeah, actually also 6'2". Yeah. Oh, I'm so lying. 5'7" guard.
I was about to say 5'7". She's around that same height as Shyla here.
But yeah, same size. Wow, we're gonna have a lot of shorter guards running around training camp, aren't we?
I mean,
Them and Celeste.
It's rare that you find a bigger guard in today's W that's coming out of the draft. Like Chelsea's one of the bigger guards, and she's obviously a few years removed from being drafted. All the other guards that have come since then, and that's respectfully, like all the other guards that have come since then are like, you know, in that 6 foot to 5'8" range. So it checks off. She plays bigger than her height says, though, for sure.
I'm excited for all the Suns fans to join our Mercury fun after the Suns have been released into the waters of Cabo. So shout out to all of you guys in the comments for joining us today. But back to Megan. I think this is a good get. I think of the three, I think we've done it in the correct order. In that she probably has the second best chance of the three to make the roster. I haven't watched a ton, but when you're averaging 18 points a game, I mean, it's that says it all. I mean, the girl can score the basketball.
Yeah, she's a fireball. She's really good in pick and roll. She's really good at understanding with feel the balance of scoring and playmaking for others as a point guard, and that's one of the most high quality dynamics that you can bring to the court when you're on. But the other big thing, like, yes, you can score, but as a smaller guard, as we know, scoring in a W does not come easy. You might have some of that impact, but it might not hit necessarily to the same level that it did on the collegiate level, or if you play internationally. So what else can you bring to the fold that's gonna kind of differentiate yourself from the pack?
Oh, sorry. She's also their leading rebounder as a 5'8" guard.
I'm getting there.
I'm sorry.
I'm getting there.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to steal the thunder, but
let me cook. So you spoke perfectly to the rebounding. That's one box that she checks off. That speaks to multiple efforts and just a general level of competition. But also led the entire nation in steals. You do not stumble into these types of things.
We got her and Celeste Taylor on the same team.
Yes. And for
no ball safe.
And for Megan specifically, because she's smaller, it's one thing to, I guess, be able to just kind of compete. It's another thing when you see things happening in double time and triple time. And her anticipation for her defensive playmaking, steals in passing lanes, steals on ball. She has great anticipatory skill matched with hand speed and matched with a lateral quickness that allows her to stay in front of offensive players. Match all of those dynamics with her competitive nature, and you have someone that is going to be able to find staying power somewhere, whether it's with the Mercury or elsewhere in years to come, because you don't just stumble into these types of things. And back to the offensive side, 639 points produced this season. That's from points directly from her hands via buckets from her, but also from assisting other players. That just speaks, again, if you're putting up over 600 points produced on the collegiate level, you're doing some things, and that's not something that you stumble into.
Yeah, and then not to mention, you did mention it, the assist part of it. I mean, when she's doing what she's doing for that team, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. We don't really have to sell her anymore at this point. I feel like she's run the team for Duquesne, apparently, as I've learned on this fine Wednesday morning. But yeah, I mean, both of them are going to be really tough to cut from the roster, I would think.
Yes. I think that Megan also plays the style of guard play that Nate is going to look for from anybody that's playing the point guard position for this rendition of his team.
Yeah.
And it's because, in addition to everything else that we talked about, 3-point shot generation. She can shoot the three, but she also understands how to facilitate to those 3-point shots, those catch and shoot threes that teams value most. And for Megan specifically, 35 threes made either from her or that she assisted on last season. That ranked 38th in the nation last year. And she also generated the 31st most in terms of how many threes that she was able to create, 111. So checking off all the boxes in terms of the ways in which she operated, being very good in pick and roll, being able to create out of chaos as a ball handler, the defense, and the playmaking from the defensive end that's going to put them in transition. And if you're leading to opportunities to play off of your defense with Alyssa and Satou and Kahleah, that's the style of play that they're going to look to want to play up-tempo. She fits hand and glove into that. So The guard group in general for this upcoming training camp for the Mercury is going to be extremely fun to watch and gauge, especially as they get towards the preseason games. Looking at who's playing with who, what the minutes look like, what the activity on defense looks like, who's having the most impact on offense. I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
I just want to say I'm so excited. You know, Steven and I only got to go to like one basketball game together last year, and I just know I'm going to be sitting next to Steven learning so freaking much this year. I'm going to ask Steven the most ridiculous questions he's ever heard, and he's going to be like, can you shut up? Like, I'm trying to watch Nate's, you know, out of timeout situation, and I'm like, can you tell me about it though? Like, please talk. So I'm just so excited to have Steven local in Phoenix this season so that I can pick his brain every day that ends in Y.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just generally being in the building because you've
only been in the training facility one time, yeah, during All-Star?
I've been like 3 or 4 times since.
It's
for
just,
oppressors
so
and whatnot.
Beautiful.
It is.
I can't wait to be back.
It still smells like brand new.
Yeah, the paint. You can smell the paint on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Kalani Brown, and get in there, get to work, so it doesn't smell like paint anymore.
It was a lot of fun to watch her stories
and
when
real
she
quick,
first pulled up.
I saw some people talking about the fact that Diana still has a locker. I won't be surprised if that locker literally stays there for years to come. Yeah.
Why wouldn't
I mean, it's her facility for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. So to me personally, if she wants to come hoop there, who are they to say no? I mean, you know, from the ground of who built it, you know what I mean? So I just think that, you know, me personally, I don't ever want to see that DT disappear out of the locker room. If it did, I would also understand.
It might not.
But I mean, I saw people freaking out about it, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know, it'll be there for a while.
That might serve as her like temporary statue until the actual statue is built.
Ooh, okay. Is the statue going outside the facility or is it going outside the arena?
Both.
Period.
Why
okay.
Not?
I like how I'm excited about something completely theoretical, you know? She can haunt the facility, Esther says.
Yeah, Esther, that's called accountability. You're going to pull up in the locker room with DT's greatness in that locker spot still sitting there, not having checked off all your boxes in terms of what you were supposed to bring to the table for every given day? Like, how do you, there's no way. There's like her ghosts are going to be tapping you on the shoulder like, hey, get back in there and take another 100 free throws. You missed like 10 today.
I just have to laugh because some of you may know the Arizona Wildcats just went through a coaching change down south. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people that DM'd me like, do you think Diana would throw her hat in the running? And I'm like, why would she come to Tucson? I don't know if you guys know this, but my girl's vegan. We don't have enough good vegan food for her, okay? Like, no, she's not considering Arizona Wildcats. No. I think if Diana goes into coaching, it will be for the Mercury or the UConn Huskies. And I feel as though that could be the end of the list as far as college or pros. But, I mean, I could be entirely wrong. But I wouldn't be shocked if Diana moves into like more of a high school coaching position or something like that to kind of help with the youth around in the community.
I could see her getting into a front office position.
Yeah.
She has an eye for talent. And I think that that's of some of the highest value that you can have in any front office. Also coming with a certain level of respect that players like, oh, Diana Taurasi noticed me? Like, that means I'm doing something right. I think that type of dynamic is something that she could easily walk into now if she really wanted to.
And Andy, you weren't the only person that was freaking out about the Diana locker room. There's multiple people actually in this chat right now that I saw talking about Diana's locker. And then also MGC, I saw you have a comment asking about Mercury takeovers this season. I don't think that that's going to happen, but I do think that there's some other things that will be in the works
Stay tuned.
You will be even more excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I think our chance to connect with you guys is going to get like even bigger. And so I'm really, really excited for what we have in the works for you guys. And then just also in general, the amount of content that I think you guys can expect from us is going to just really raise with this coming season. Like I said, with Steven being in person and us just having more opportunities to create in real time together at the arena, at the facilities, wherever. I just think, you know, you guys should be really, really excited for what's to come from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, do you guys know when DT's retiring? Actually, I'm not sure. Did you hear anything about that in the offseason?
The Ring of Honor?
Is that what second. Okay. Oh, Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So it's happening in
They made the announcement. I can't remember off the top of my head what the date is specifically, but it is happening this season for sure.
But I can find out for you guys. But yes, stay tuned for regarding some. And I was also thinking the same thing, Ogre, about regarding unofficial takeovers. So we'll see what we can work out. I have no doubts that we will spend more time together this summer than we saw of each other last summer. And I saw you guys quite literally at every single game. So yeah, I expect the eye time to increase. That said, though, we got one more player to get through with these off-season acquisitions. And I had to laugh because I was sending all of this information in our little group chat this morning, and Espo was like, "Oh, they signed a Michigan State player. I wonder why, you know." And so we've got Julia Ayrault, and I hope I've said that correctly. Grad student out of Michigan State, 6'2" guard. Kind of cool. It's hometown kid in Michigan, so I think that's always a fun story when they get to go back home to finish their collegiate careers. But just looking through like her stats, I'm not sure that here's what I'm going to say about grad students. There's a reason that most of them go back for grad years. And like, I'm not going to be surprised if this one doesn't even come to training camp, but I also wouldn't be surprised if she totally does. So, like I said, I think you're a Michigan State fan. Is that correct? Or am I imagining that?
I'm a Michigan State fan for sure. Yeah.
Go green.
Julia, yeah, for sure. You already know, Noah. The big thing with Julia is the 3-point shooting. And having players that fit a specific niche around the Big Three team construct, they've knocked it out the park in terms of the types of players that they've been targeting. Tons of players that bring different dynamics, most of which aligning with 3-point shooting and defense or rebounding, if not two of those three things, if not all three of those things. And Julia is someone that certainly identifies with the 3-point shooting part in particular. She can do it off subtle movement, relocating and things like that. And when she's able to do that at the specific clip that she was at last season, shooting 35.4% on 127 catch and shoot 3-point opportunities, that's the type of efficiency and not being a stranger to getting up 3-point shots that you want for a team context that the Mercury are building.
What I'm hearing is we got a team built with the big 3/4, if you want to include Kalani, because I actually think that we've done Kalani a disservice by talking so much about the big 3 and excluding her from that. But then we just got a lot of shooters and Natasha Mack. Am I wrong?
And that's the exact type of team and roster building that you want. You want to have your pick of the litter of players that bring specific needs to the team to then assess, okay, who does it best and who could also bring something in addition to that, like we talked about a couple of times already on this episode. So I think they're in a good position, and I think they're going to have a very competitive training camp. It will be one of the more competitive ones just because of the compilation of talent that they have and the cachet that comes with having a Big 3 roster template too. It's going to be fun. I think those three are going to set the tone, and I think they have a bunch of players that have come in as invites that will be able to kind of pick up the baton off of that.
Can I ask you a Suns-related question?
Of course.
You know, I don't watch the Suns very often. I watch two genders of college basketball. I'm pretty booked up during NBA season. But from the outside looking in, it kind of feels like Ishbia / James Jones / the front office of the Suns runs the team in a kind of similar way that they run the Mercury, in that they kind of aim for positionless basketball. And am I correct in that?
To an extent, they weren't able to replicate it the way that the Mercury will be able to this upcoming season.
I'm not trying to dog on the Suns, everybody. I'm just trying to see.
It's real. If we talking, and that's real. They weren't able to play the positionless
I hear Noah giggling, and
basketball.
I'm like, my bad, everybody.
They weren't able to do so in a way that was like harmonic in any capacity this season. In fact, it was far too stagnant at times and far too slow, which allowed for a defense to stay ahead of them, and that's why they ran into the issues that they did. I do not see the Mercury having that same issue.
And I think one word that you said right there that stuck out to me is slow. And I don't think anyone on this Mercury team is really slow. So,
but not slow in terms of
pace,
like speed, but slow in terms of their approach to the game on offense in particular. But the other big thing, if you want to play even somewhat fast, you have to play it with a certain level of activity defensively. Yeah. That's not something that the Suns had in any capacity. They had the worst half-court defense in the league, and they were 27th in general defense. I do not foresee the Phoenix Mercury being bottom third in the W.
I don't either.
In any capacity on the defensive end or in rebounding the basketball, because if you want to run, you have to get stops and play with defensive activity, but you also have to grab rebounds. And they have like 4 or 5 plus rebounders for their respective positions on the roster as is. So no, I know the question that you asked, but I'm answering the question that I heard. You're not going to see the same issues that the Suns ran into on the Mercury side of things.
I didn't think so. I was just curious because, again, like I said, I don't really spend a lot of time watching the Suns. So just from the outside looking in, it kind of feels that way. But I obviously know that it applies much differently to the WNBA than it does the NBA. And so I think that's something we get to remember as like the outsiders of. But I think it's interesting that they run the same. So I don't want to say similarly, but not really another word for it, considering how different the two leagues play.
Yeah, for sure. And the other big thing is coaching. Yeah. And that's not even to be disrespectful or slight Mike Budenholzer, but him and Nate Tibbetts are two completely different coaches. Nate, in the way he's been lauded by the players that have spent time with him and the front office and the things that kind of preceded him before he actually got the opportunity with the Mercury. High-level communication, fiery, building up sweat equity, getting out there doing drills with the players. Whether it be off-season or one-on-one, or he's hopping in 5-on-5 drills with the players, like that's a different type of communication that builds up a different type of buy-in and a different type of trust. So again, overarching point, I know the question you asked, but I'm asking the question I heard. For those many reasons that we just got done running down, the Mercury will not be running into the same issues that the Suns did this season.
Period. Okay, well, you heard it here first, folks. No Mercury issues regarding the Suns. So we did get a couple questions in the Discord this morning, and I wanted to answer them because, frankly, again, we haven't done a what's the word I'm looking for? Where we answer questions.
Question and answer, Q&A, mailbag.
Mailbag. We have not done a mailbag literally since like this time last year, it seems. So I just wanted to give our diehards just a real quick chance to ask some questions. Considering the draft was this week, and just so much change has been surrounding the Mercury. So my guy Ogre McFubin asked us, which teams are a bigger threat to the Mercury as a result of the draft?
As a result of the draft, no one really pops as like, okay, they're like that, like so much better that I feel like they're threatening that weren't already either in that realm or potentially ahead of the Mercury. So no one really pops for me in that respect. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say just the Dallas Wings because Paige is going to be a problem.
Yeah, you could get away.
You could get away with guarding Ayrault certain ways that you will not be able to without having hefty consequences to pay, because Paige is going to be around her in some capacity, whether she's one pass away, whether she's initiating for Ayrault to then work off the ball, or if she's spaced off of Ayrault in the corners and things like that. So I think there's going to be an inter-player dynamic between those two in particular. There's going to be a lot of fun. And Paige is going to make her life easier and vice versa. So I would probably say them because it's going to be a handful to try to guard that group.
Have you seen that Fever and Wings tickets are $1,200 for the worst seat in the house?
Wow.
What happened to my beloved league? What happened?
That's what happens.
I've paid less than that to see LeBron.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is tough.
That's tough, but that game is being played in the Mavericks arena, right?
In the United Center, I think, yeah.
Well, that game, you talking about the Sky Fever game? Well, I thought you were talking about the game
I'm sorry.
for the Wings.
I just have the arena name wrong, my bad.
Arena. Yeah. I think it's American Airway or something like that. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So that makes sense that they hike it up because of obviously who's coming to town.
I just couldn't believe it. $1,200? I'm sorry, but someone said, well, you could buy it on Afterpay. 8 months, 9 months to pay off one basketball game. Y'all got me so messed up. Absolutely not. So yeah, hats off. If I see y'all at that game, I better see so many pictures, videos, because you better get your money's worth out for that $1,200, because that is crazy. And like Melissa said, sad for the OG fans. Like,
Facts.
There have been Wings fans that, I mean, granted, they don't play in the world's greatest arena normally, but literally there are Wings fans that already existed, and now suddenly they're going to be paying arm, leg, and their firstborn child to get into the arena. So I do think that that's unfortunate. But yeah, if I had to buy Mercury tickets and they were $1,200, I would just be parting ways with the Mercury tickets. That's just
I hear you.
The only thing I'm paying that much for is SZA and Kendrick, and that's the end of the list.
That's a stark, it feels like it's too quick of a jump from what was to what it is
exactly
now. So I get it, but at the same time, evolution is rapid right now with the W.
I would just like to say that 3 short seasons ago, whenever Aaliyah Boston was the number 1 pick in the draft, I paid $42 per ticket to sit row 1 behind the Indiana Fever bench. So yes, the times have literally very much changed. It is
They say yesterday's price is not today's price in
and that was
any
my number 1
capacity.
pick, and $42. It was crazy, crazy. But one more question from the Die Hard Lounge. What is your honest expectation of the Mercury this season? Is it just making the playoffs, win a title, or just not having a Suns dysfunctional season with a big 3?
Oh my goodness. Say that one more time.
What are your
That was a
honest
question.
expectations for the Mercury this season? Making the playoffs, win a championship, or just not having a Suns dysfunctional season?
My expectations? Playoffs for sure.
I think that playoffs, I don't have to think about that expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to think about it just because of the parity that we just got done speaking to earlier in the episode. But this roster was built together to start contending now. So that means that playoffs should be the floor for them. I think that the daily habits that they're establishing, their vitamins, all of which are going to be aligned with them being able to have a certain level of play that they can reach come playoff time and being able to do so in multiple ways. I'm looking forward to seeing that foundation being laid starting on the 27th next Sunday. So yeah, I'm expecting them to be extremely competitive, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch them this season.
Yeah, shout out to Andy. I just looked it up. Wings tickets for the Mercury start at $36. So, and I've been telling everybody all year, like, please start looking for, like, please buy your tickets now because they are going to go up, and look at exactly what happened. $1,200 is insane. So before they realize what they've done and given these tickets away for $37, I do believe that you guys should jump on board and get them tickets.
I agree. Don't wait. If you're thinking about it, just go for it now.
They're going to end up opening the second, and everyone in our chat is going to be so mad that they don't have tickets. So figure it out. Buy the $36 tickets now. And because, I mean, it's not a bad seat. So just be there. Are y'all talking crap about the Suns in the comments?
Nah, Noah sticking his nose in business that had nothing to do with him. That's the problem. And then Chris just being the instigator that he is. All talk, no bark or bite.
He better not come in here talking no mess about Duke. That's all I have to say.
The C in Chris stands for Chatty Cathy.
But yeah,
that's all he be yapping. That's all.
He loves to comment on my tweets regarding Miss
Chihuahua.
Duke. Yeah,
that's all. Just nipping at your ankles.
I had to mute him. I was like,
man, shoot, get out
if
of here.
you don't stop talking about Cooper Flag in my DMs, I swear on life. Yeah, no, me and Chris be fighting. But anyways,
you heard that, Chris? She said, "Come correct." Don't be coming in there talking about no Cooper Flag.
No Cooper Flag talk in my DMs. Thank you so much. But I mean, we did get a question earlier about the starting 5. Do you want to answer that real quick?
Yeah, the point guard spot is one I'm still not sure about. But my thing is, it's not that point guard, like the actual person bringing it up the court, because Alyssa Thomas is going to be doing a ton of that. Satou Sabally is going to be doing a ton of that. Kahleah Copper is going to be doing a ton of that. It's not a matter of the actual point guard, but that 5th player. And also, it depends on who they're going to start at center. Is it going to be Alyssa Thomas that's starting?
Yeah.
Is it going to be kind of a matchup thing that they're doing, where sometimes it's Alyssa and sometimes it's Kalani Brown? It just kind of depends, but not worried about the point guard spot. I do think that if I was Nate Tibbetts right now, I would probably just start Sammy Wickham, because Sammy can initiate. She can play out the second side.
She's so
she gives you the
consistent.
shooting and spacing that you need. And she can also be a chameleon on the defensive end as well, doing some little things that you might not necessarily get from like the high-level players on your roster. So I would start Sammy there as of today, but TBD on that.
Yeah, I would
A lot
kind
of
of agree.
factors kind of in play.
Thank you, Melissa, so much. I sent you a DM earlier, but glad to know you're not wiped off socials completely, even though Mr. Elon tried to take your account away. So I was just happy to see you on Twitter this morning.
Yeah. That whole Twitter situation is ridiculous.
I just want everyone to know that I was real close to being off the app permanently about a week and a half ago. So shout out to all of you for saving my brains, because seriously, like, I was feeling quite fried on the app. Yeah, follow me on Twitter so I don't delete the app at Erica Lee Day. It would be pretty unfortunate if I did disappear off the face of the Twitter planet. I've been there since 2012. I mean, I'm one with the app at this point. So, you know, but I'm really excited about Mercury season. I know we've got a lot planned, you know, to happen, but I just think we're going to really, you know, up our game this year in terms of Mercury content.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I just need Chris to stop harassing Alyssa in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to have problems.
Everybody better stop harassing everybody. I'm not playing no games with any of y'all. So y'all know be square. You're all being squares by arguing in the comments. So thank you guys all for watching today, though. Really appreciate you guys. We've been really random with this schedule over the last couple, like month and a half, 2 months.
Mhm.
So hopefully here within the next couple of weeks, we get to get some consistency going, and we're back weekly. So literally next Friday, is that correct? Yep.
Next Friday, we got some fun ahead of us. That'll be our preview before training camp starts that following Sunday. So
we're gonna have a special guest. It's gonna be a really, really fun episode. So next Friday, 1:30 in the afternoon. Put it on your calendar right now. I'm looking at you, Andy, who always has something else to do. But I really appreciate everybody joining the chat today. Is there anything I've forgotten to go over?
I think we checked off all of our boxes for today.
Period. Well, I want to give Noah another huge shout out for producing today.
Andy.
And Andy said,
Thank you.
1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And then actually one other thing before I go. Die Hard only, do that, yes. But
we will have Die Hard content this upcoming season for sure.
Yeah, Steven is let me tell you guys something. When I say Steven is a resident ball knower, I mean for the whole studio. Everyone, I fear, as though asked Steven all of their ball-related questions. And so now he can bring all of his answers to the Mercury and not just the Sun. So I'm so excited for, like I said, him to be here in person. I feel like I had an announcement and I actually am just completely spacing on it. So head over to my Twitter, Erica Lee Day, for that. We're going to be doing a Die Hard only WNBA Fantasy League, and then follow Steven at StevenPG3. Did I get that correct? Bang. And then us together at PHNX_Mercury for all of our show updates. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff flying at you over the next week or so. So just be on the lookout for that. And shout out to all of you guys in the comments. Thank you for joining today, and we will see you guys next week.
We all silly like the mayor.